Look, if you're just getting into the insurance side, which is where I would recommend everybody gravitate towards, there's a lot to underwriting, and you don't need to have to learn how to do it. I'd much rather just get the business and push it. I mean, our company has the ability to underwrite. Years ago, we made a decision to have a very small footprint in Carlsbad, and that meant we would push the things out that we don't like to do and that we're not frankly great at, and only do the things we're great at. And we could have done a lot of these cases. We're moving more and more and more and more stuff to Cavalier, just like we expect you guys to through FPA. We use Dave Holliday at FPA for some of our more complex issues as well, of our own. Why? Because you know what I want to do? I want to just be doing what I'm great at. And if I just focus on that and let the other people do what they're great at, then guess what? Everybody's going to get great work because the people who are great at what they do are the ones doing it. I'm not trying to be a jack of all trades here. I don't want to be, because time's my target. Time is everything to me, and it's much easier to find the right people that love doing what they're doing and are great at and push it in their direction. So for those of you that are just growing their practice, it's a great way to go. Now, for those of you like Cedric who do tons of life insurance and are capable of doing their own underwriting if they want to be doing that and what have you, and some of the other people in the room here, that's up to them to make that decision. I know people that are doing $4 or $5 million a year personally, not their company. Companies are doing a lot more than that. Doing $4 or $5 million a year, said, you know what, it makes more sense for me to just get the business and push it aside because I can do more, even if I'm giving a piece of it up that I wasn't giving up before. These are decisions you'll figure out as you go, and I'm just glad that we have Justin as that option. Now, Trevor, am I good back? It doesn't matter? Okay. All right, cool. So, some of you had asked about my daughter during lunch, which was awesome. Usually I talk a lot about her. I was waiting until the second half to get into it, but thank you for asking. A couple quick pictures you can see, and then we're going to get into business. Because I forgot. Hold on. There you go. There's Christmas. That's Johnny, me, and Rudolph. Rudolph's a big player in our house. He actually goes in the car with us everywhere during the Christmas season. And he straps in the seatbelt in the back seat of the Jeep, and he's very big. Johnny carried him in the parade one year. He's very big, and it's fun, in and out of the car. That's Rudolph. So that was us during the holidays, during Christmas. And this was her. So there you go. There's how my daughter's doing, 5th grade. That was her performance. That was the night she did her performance of the Christmas program at her school. So there you go. That's my peanut. She's grown up. Some of you have been with me long enough to remember when she was. So she's almost taller than me now, which isn't a big deal. She's definitely going to be taller than me. So there you are. And there's my boy, Raleigh. He's my senior citizen. I took him in for a physical the other day. And they said, "Are you here for a senior physical?" I was like, "Aw." He's 11, but he doesn't know it. And he'll be here having lunch with us tomorrow. So you guys will see him tomorrow. So there's my family. Now back to my chosen family.
Does he surf?
He does. On my Christmas card, which I'll pass around this year that went out, there's a picture of him in a wave right out here. He body surfs with me, so we'll paddle out body surfing, and then we'll turn, and we'll take the wave. And I know he surfs because I'll body surf, and when I'm done, he's like right next to me. And he couldn't have got in as fast as I did if he wasn't surfing the wave. So I'll actually throw the ball now, and that's where he's got a ball in his mouth. And he'll go out past the brake line. He charges the waves. And then when he comes in right where the brake line is, he knows, and he rides the wave. And that's a picture of him actually in the wave. I had to shrink it to fit it in here, but if you can see it, it's a big wave, and he's in it, riding it with his face up and his ball, the tennis ball in his mouth. So that's my boy. He surfs more than my daughter does. My daughter body surfs with me too. My whole family likes to body surf. I'm the only one that likes to board so far, but we'll get there. So there you go. And if you were a surfer, you'd look in the back and go, wow, check that out. That looks really good. I don't know how long ago that was, but it was definitely this year with El Nino. That's a good 5-6 foot face right there. So, all right, there you go. Back to business. Okay, so engagement. Here's the deal. We are now past the you, the us, the yus. You've had your lunch, your perfect client lunch. You've the tree of enlightenment. You've went up. You've had the three. You found the target. Okay? look, smell, feel like it could be right. Okay? You went up and you found that, hey, they have the demographic, they're the go-to person, and they had an aha moment. You did very intensive identifying and high-level qualifying. Now what? Because time is of the essence. This is about not making mistakes. This is about finding the right person. This is about minimizing the risk. This is about making good choices. Okay? So, the key here, the essence of time. I say this because less is more. Sometimes, less is just less. But with less, you always have more time. So you automatically win with less. No doubt. If time's your champion, if that's where you want to be, if time is of the essence and that is your focus, you will always win with less. You'll always have more time. So, having said that, what we don't want to do is have a bunch of the wrong people to have relationships with. We have to make these decisions. We have to decide going forward that in this piece, in this engagement, the final piece of breaking ground, the final piece that will actually integrate with them in our first steps going forward, we've got the right person. That's a big deal. And most of us, what we want to do in the engagement process is just tell them all about us now. I've heard enough about you. You got to practice. You have a few clients. You've got some people that make sense. You got some big clients, tax problems. You had a group of guys that are good. Obviously, option A is not as good as option B. You want option B. I'm ready. Now, let me tell you about me. Let me tell you about what I do, who I am, and how powerful I am, how unique I am, how different I am, and then we're going dancing. Then we're going to do this. That's what you want. That's what you want to tell them. Here's my shiny objects. Look, you know what? I'm a Navy SEAL. Here's my gun. Here's this. I'm an astronaut. There's my rocket. I'm an F-14 naval aviator. There's my plane. Right? Right, Clay? Didn't we just get that email from a CPA, right? Who said, hey, Clay had a first lunch. He gets an email from the CPA, and at the end of the email, he says, frankly, I don't know what you're going to bring to the table because my clients want to pay the least amount in taxes they can, of course, within the IRS guidelines, without having an audit. They want to do that, and they are already getting it from me. That's how it ended. Now, the problem with that email is that's a powerful statement. All his clients are paying the least amount of tax they can pay within the IRS guidelines. All by myself with me. Which we all know is a lie, right? Which is wrong, but don't attack that. See, if the perfect lunch would have been done right, and this is no attack on Clay because he's further along than most. But reason that email came up is because the first lunch wasn't done right. Because if the first lunch was done right, he would have found out that, hey, how are you doing that? They're paying least amount. Tell me how you do that. How'd you do that? Who does the work? How'd you find out how much tax they owed? How do you know all the solutions? How do you get them the solutions? And how are you able to actually deliver these sophisticated, hard to understand solutions to people that don't understand them? How do they trust you enough? How is that possible? Tell me. I need to know. I'd love to know that. Because I can learn from you. That should have been first lunch material right there. That should have been as we were going up the tree of enlightenment. That's where I would have been finding that out. But the fact is it didn't happen there, so he's asking it in an email. Forget about the email. That's engagement stuff right there. Don't do it over the email, over the phone, in a fax or a Facebook. No, don't tweet it or LinkedIn link it, whatever it is. Right? No. Sit down face to face and do what? What you're great at. Never forget what you're great at. What are you great at? Stone, what are you great at if you're having these engagement meetings? Amen. What else are you great at? Leadership. Right. What else are you great at, Clay? Commune. Let me help you. Say it with me. Everybody on three. 1, 2, 3. Communication. Okay? So why would you not bring what you're great at? You're in charge here. You set the pace. This is you in control. You're making the decision. So if you're great at relationship, leadership, and communication, don't do it over the phone. That's wasted. And on social media or a fax or smoke signals, sit down and let those skills lead the way. They haven't got a prayer. They haven't got a chance with you. You own them. And find out what's the deal. So that's it. You can't. Look, remember I told you about my second meeting? The guy says, frankly, I don't see how we can use you, how we can work with you after I flew up to Chico. And 2 hours later, his answer was, I have no idea how we can get along without you. How does that happen in an email? It's never going to happen. If he sends you an email, I don't understand what you're doing, and frankly, we can't use you. What am I going to do? 78-page email back why he's wrong? No, but in person, and that's what's going to happen. So use your skills, which you're great at. You get down there and you do your engagement process. And you find out. And it's not about you throwing your artillery. No. That doesn't matter. Do we have it? Do we have fact pattern analytics? Yes. Do we have cavalier underwriting? Yes. Do we have the anatomy of a case? Yes. Do we have the greatest team in the country? Arguably, yes. So what? There's all your Naval SEAL gear. Go get it. There's the F-14. Hop in. Apollo going to Saturn is right behind me. Step on board. How many of you be alive 25 minutes after you started those engines? They're not good. It's useless. It doesn't matter. But in the hands of somebody qualified, they're powerful. And you're powerful and unique because you're qualified, not because of what qualifies you. Do you get that? You're powerful and unique because you're qualified, not because of what qualifies you. You make that worthwhile. You're the qualified one. You don't bring the solutions. You are the solution. So it's not about you getting in there and telling him how amazing I am at the engagement. No, yes, you need to explain to them what you've got and how you use it. But first, you have to find out about them. Is that your target? Less is more. You make a mistake here and it costs you, it costs you, and it costs you, and it will continue to cost you. And I can't let that happen. And it isn't going to happen on my watch. So you're not going to make a mistake. Because you're going to be painstakingly diligent in this phase. And everybody is going to pick and choose the right one because you are the right one. If you're not right, if you're not the target, if you're not the right person, you won't find the right person. But let's just get here now for planning purposes and teaching purposes. You are. You've been remodeled, transformed, you're ready, educated, capable, committed, and you're concise, and you know what your target is because you're the target. And now you're going to go look for them. You've done the high-level identifying. Now you got to go in and do low-level qualifying. You went in and identified them intensely, and you qualified them high level. Now you're going to come in and do, a little sweep low to the ground and see what happens. You can't do too much here, or else you're going to lose the heat that was generated from the spark. You haven't gained the right to dig too deep. You don't know them yet the way you're going to. And you want to keep the flame alive that was ignited in that first meeting, that first sparky little lunch you had. But you have work to do here. So when you first meet with them, here you are again, you have to make sure that they are on board. Okay? What was your takeaway? And if they're not where you need them to be, you may have to go back up the tree of enlightenment and get them requalified again. You may have to find out where they were. Make sure that they're just as excited as they were when they left. That might be the situation. You might have to do that. But if they are, and you don't have to go back up the tree, don't. You don't have to do that. Don't do it. There's no money in doing that unless you have to. Hot. There's got to be a temperature in between hot and cold that I like.
You've already told us that's no place.
No. I'm thinking it's kind of super hot, but not super duper hot.
Oh.
Kind of there. So here's where we're at. So we don't need to go here. These guys are good. Don't go up the tree. But remember what I said. Bring the past into the present to develop the future. Bring the past into the present to develop the future. Date 1 into date 2 to talk about date forever. Get it? What happened on date 1, let's discuss it in date 2 so we have a vision of our forever. Past into the present to develop the future. So, as we've gone into this now, here's what we're doing. We're going to talk about, okay, and before I even get here, let me come back for just a second. Remember the targets. You're ultimately looking for your target, that client. But before you get there, let's remember what we have. Okay? Let's not forget what's going on here. You're still in control of a very sophisticated sales process. Okay? Don't want to make any mistakes. You're selling them on what? One relationship with me will greatly enhance every other relationship you have, every other important relationship you have. Okay? So when you get there with them, the beginning of the engagement process is one question. After the pleasantries, after all of this, and you're back having lunch again, that first one is, so what were your takeaways from that? I have a number that I thought about and actually discussed with my partners, if you have any. How about you? If they maybe went discuss with partners, maybe they have partners, what have you, what were they? And whatever they say, that's your target. Whatever it was. My takeaway was, well, I wasn't sure we could work so much because of the logistics of how far away we are. I thought about that, talked to my partners, and we've had problems before. So when he gets done with that, do I say, yeah, and my takeaway was that, I like the suit you had on. It was a really cool suit. And I like the fact that you work with athletes. That's cool. And our company is really good at working with athletes. I've worked with lots of athletes. And we do these things called a LERP. And you put a LERP in for an athlete because they make lots of money. They don't know what to do with it. What does that have to do with what he just said? You think I'm crazy, but we do it all the time. All the time. Because we're not great communicators yet. But you will be. Okay? So guess what? If he says that logistics, then you go right to the logistics. Like I did. When he said logistically, we're up here, you're down there. I said, I thought the same thing. How could we logistically? And then I told him about my company that would help handle the logistics part. I talked about, we have this, and we thought about we can maybe build a company, and we'd have to have someone on the ground here. And we talked about, I addressed that. See, whatever their takeaway is, that's your target. And then you go to the next takeaway, that's your target. See what happens in that conversation, again, take it from somebody who's a great communicator. They end up believing that, oh my goodness, this is perfect fit for what I'm talking about. Everything they say they can do is addressing all the concerns that I had. How do we do that? Because we listen. So whatever his issue is, there's your target. Whatever his issue is, there's your target. Whatever his issue is, there's your target. Not, no, I've got a team, I've got anatomy of a case, you got to check out the anatomy of the remodel, and wait till you hear about fact pattern analytics and my deliverables. Woo! Powerful. Yeah. Yeah. I'm serious. You have to watch people. Now that you know, wait till you're sitting watching people have meetings. It's going to blow you away. It's like, he didn't address that. He didn't talk about that. What's wrong with him? And then whatever they give you, you smell blood. You attack it. When they give you an open door, you walk through it. When they give you an entry into something, you take it. Okay, what's happening here? You want to do what? Not convince them to work with you. You want to convince you that you need to work with them. That's different. That's way different. See, I always rate the potential prospect after the first lunch. 7, 6, 4, 8. And if he's a 7, he's not a 7 because he's not convinced. He's a 7 because I'm not convinced. I'm not sure. Quit thinking like you used to. So I got to get to a 10. You're a 7, I got to get to a 10. Here's the gauge. It needs to go to here before I say yes. Sorry. Imagine if we did this when we were interviewing spouses. A lot less divorce out there. Because everything we do, a lot of what we do in our marriages is all emotional and feelings based. They used to do a lot of arranged marriages back in the day where they were doing all that behind the scenes, right? I'm not saying, look, don't fall in love. I'm good with all that. But I'm saying love on purpose. So guess what? You want to take that 7 and make it a 10 or it ain't happening.